women in space.
So we'd like to welcome everyone to our October all members meeting, and we're glad you could join us. Before we commence our conversation with Joan Tang Mancuso, SSPI 2024 Mentor of the Year, there are a few announcements I'd like to make. SSPI-WISE is grateful for the support of Hughes, an EcoStar company, River Advisors, and Neuron. Next slide, please, Tamara. Tamara?
Right here. There you go.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I was trying to avoid this slide, if I'm being honest.
You couldn't escape. So SSPI-WISE proudly congratulates Tamara Bond-Williams on her recent appointment as Deputy Executive Director at SSPI. Tamara has been a vital part of SSPI-WISE, consistently supporting and contributing to our mission of empowering and elevating women in the space and satellite industry. Her dedication to fostering diversity and leadership continues to inspire and drive meaningful change. Thank you, Tamara, and we wish you all the best in your new position.
Thank you so much.
And the next slide is, so we've kicked off, the mentoring group working group has kicked off the mentoring program for women in the industry, space and satellite industry. It is a great program, and I would highly encourage those of you who are looking to join a mentorship program to please sign up. Mentor and mentee application links and the LinkedIn post will be placed in the chat. I will place that, and there's a lot of information in the LinkedIn post. And our next meeting will be our all members meeting will be held on Thursday, November 21st at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Next slide, please, Tamara. And now moving over to our featured session, the Mentor of the Year conversation will highlight Joan's extensive contributions to the space and satellite industry and her dedication to mentoring emerging professionals. I will now turn it over to Tamara to introduce our Mentor of the Year and begin the conversation. Over to you, Tamara. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and absolutely. I am so honored to have this opportunity to introduce Joan Tang Mancuso. She is our 2024 Mentor of the Year. She has experience that stretches back over 4 decades of immense change in satellite communications. She got her start at ComSat when it was the U.S. gateway to international satellite service. In roles with AT&T, GE, L3, and other companies, she's led marketing and sales teams responsible for multi-million-dollar contracts around the world, established the VSAT network at one of the first independent teleports in the United States on Staten Island, and developed network solutions for remote and rural communities worldwide. A member of the SSPI Mid-Atlantic Chapter Board, she led the creation of a scholarship program to help inner-city high school students with STEM education. She is an inaugural contributor to the mentorship program of SSPI-WISE, which you just heard about, where she has already mentored 4 women across 3 countries, guiding one through a transition from a technical to a managerial role, and another through a challenging international relocation. She also mentors students, volunteers, and interns at George Washington University, the Museum, and the Kennedy Center for the Arts. With that, welcome, Joan, and thank you so very, very much for being here.
Well, first, I want to congratulate you, Tamara. This is well-deserved. I've known you. God, I mean, if it's 4 decades, as you say, I believe it, but half of them you were there. So I have to thank you and all that you've contributed to this industry. Thank you so much for having me.
You know, Joan, thank you for saying that. It is actually half, right? I've been with SSPI 23 years, and I've known you all of them, and so I am exceptionally thrilled to be able to share this honor with you, to share this moment with you as being selected, deservedly so, as Mentor of the Year. So I'm just going to jump right into a bunch of questions. I want to invite all of our audience to put any questions for Joan in the chats. Joan is a mentor just by her heart. And so if you have questions, ask them, because I'm sure she has plenty of good things to say. But while we're waiting for questions from the audience, Joan, you entered the industry when it was poised for takeoff, and you saw it through changes almost as profound as the changes we're experiencing today, which are quite profound. What led you to be in this space business, and what kept you here?
That's an interesting question. Now I have to dig into 4 decades ago, right? This is really down memory lane now. I entered the telephone business after graduating from University of Maryland.
There you go.
But it was in the late 70s when I saw that the excitement is outside of the phone company. Is actually when they start launching the Ku-band satellite. They're introducing the analog to digital transformation and all the possibilities. So that was very exciting. I resigned from the phone company and jumped into a venture. And with that, it led me into ComSat in the mid 80s, when the international business was growing in leaps and bounds. And I thought it was really an opportunity. It was a changing world. What I underestimated is how difficult it is to do that. Joining ComSat was really an eye-opener. I thought I understood marketing and sales, but that's not what ComSat was commissioned to do at the time. ComSat had no sales and user experience prior to introducing of the International Business Service. So I was like a pioneer in the company. Nobody knew what I was doing. They kind of just left me alone. Maybe that was good, and let her do her stuff, and I was fortunate. There was a lot of people that I could reach out to, helping me, giving me a hand, understanding the international business, and they share the mission. So we were very fortunate to have landed in the first transatlantic pipe or channel. And that was really in a timely way, delivering telecommunication service between New York and London for Merrill Lynch. And that was just before the London Stock Exchange deregulated in 1986. So we delivered that service, and we validated IBS service for Intelsat, and New York Teleport got on the map. Those were all, a sequence of events. And what that showed me then was, yes, there's a lot that one does, but really you need to work with a team. Yeah. So what drew me into the business was excitement of the adventure. But what really kept me there are the people that were on my team, colleagues, partners, you name it. There was a lot of people that were involved. This business is a people's business.
Very well said. Okay, I'm going a little bit off script. You understand that, of course, my goal is to have a conversation and not just read a list of questions. And you said something that just totally caught my attention. You said you were working in the telephone business. You discovered that there was another opportunity in an adjacent business, and you jumped over.
Yes.
That takes courage, no? I mean, was that like easy, or did you just say, hey, I'm doing it? What was that like?
I would say that's probably the youth vigor. I mean, in the telephone business, everything's kind of stagnant and slow moving, and, facility plan is planned out for 10 years. If because a capital write-off is over minimally 10 years. 5 years is really extraordinaire. So things can't move any faster than that. But here comes the satellite technology, just launching a satellite and bang, you got network infrastructure that could be created using space connectivity. So that was exciting.
Yeah.
The excitement is what drew me there. And that's an important part, is youth vigor, adventure.
Okay, I like it. Okay, well, so you've worked at ComSat, AT&T, and G. I named those. What can you tell us a little bit about some of your most rewarding projects during that time period?
Well, it's hard to say if there's any one rewarding project. I really was involved in a lot of firsts because everything was transforming from analog to digital. So there were a lot of challenges, but at the same time, it was very exciting and rewarding. If I can say something that's really, really extraordinary,
Mhm.
in about 1990, when we were just after the Tiananmen Square incident of 1989, China was poised to open its doors to Western world. And they wanted to befriend United States with all the advanced technology. So I got a phone call to go to China. And I thought, wow, that's kind of exciting. I'm Chinese. How close to home can that go? So I got on the plane, got to China. And on my first trip, I met my relatives for the first time.
Wow.
That was a lifetime experience. And my family never talked about relatives in Beijing because my father came to the United States to serve the Taiwan embassy. So the tension between Taiwan and China, which you hear about today, was even more so then. And we just don't talk about family in Beijing. That was just off the map. So the opportunity to go on a business trip and to meet relatives, that was an inspiration. I saw that huge market opportunity and I was going to have my piece of it. That got me to open up a representative office in 1993.
Wow.
And you want to hear something else even more unbelievable? Um, the staff in China was quite enthusiastic. They were very loyal. They had strong work ethics, and they treated me like a family elder, which was extraordinary. But what really shocked me was that in one of the projects, an executive in the client organization, digged into my family history and confirmed and validated that my great grandfather was the chief engineer in the railroads of China back in the 1900s. And he also was a president of Jiaotong University, which is still a very well-known university for transportation in China. So that incident really just kind of gave me a wow moment. It's like, oh my gosh, overnight, not only do I have to do well for me, I got to live up to the family reputation that I didn't know I had. So, you really got your inspiration and your passion from anywhere. I mean, the
Yeah.
opportunities come from anywhere, and you have to seize the moment.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Oh my gosh. I couldn't even imagine just going on a business trip and then discovering a whole universe of family. That's quite an incredible personal journey. Thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about your role with SSPI. You've been with SSPI for a while, different capacities, and you've done a lot to help nurture younger people to advance their careers. Why is that something that's important to you? And let's start with why is it important for you to be engaged with SSPI, and specifically, why is it important to you to help younger people?
Well, if through my career, I have one very simple intention that I knew my strength was in revenue achievement. But to do that, I needed a lot of help. I needed people who could open doors for me, who can guide me through difficult challenges, things that I didn't know, and there were a lot that I don't know. So you need to build a network. SSPI is an incredible organization that attracted talent around the world. And this is before social media. It gave a channel for people to come together at conferences. It was like a homecoming at some of these events. And we all look forward to that. It was an opportunity to build personal network. It's an opportunity to see old friends. And it's through that personal contact that you create friends for lifetime. And I encourage everyone, you've got to build a network. There's no way to learn this business on your own. You need help. And just recognize that it's okay to reach out. It's okay to look for role models and make them your friends. And that
Yeah.
SSPI was a channel to do that. Now, I got more involved with SSPI, not only because of the channel, but I also saw the importance of attracting talent. This industry can only grow by the expertise and the talent that we have in the industry. We're competing with all the other industries for the brightest and the best.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's really front and center of our mission. It's why we organize different competitions at the university level. A lot of young people who do have STEM education credentials, they do have an excitement around space. They don't always think that they're going to be employed in our industry, or they may only just know SpaceX as a name. And so really making sure that we directly engage with students and get them looking at and seeing the broader possibilities is front and center of our mission. And you've been a part of that. And so thank you for that. You mentioned social media, and I'm just gonna ask. I mean, there's a lot of people today whose primary networking is on social media. How do you make that? Have you had a lot of engagement, first of all, on social media? And how do you navigate the changing universe where people's face-to-face experiences are somewhat limited sometimes?
I think, social media is a nice complement to person-to-person meetings, but I really think there's no substitute for personal contact. A phone call, a lunch, or just having coffee with someone, you accomplish so much more than just using the social media. Social media is great to maintain contacts, but to really create that linkage and to reach someone else, I think there's no substitute than personal contact, or person-to-person contacts. And to your point, I'm all for flexible working hours, to have remote offices, but I would encourage everybody to go in the office and get to know your colleagues, because, remote working environment is great for managing personal lives and daily time, prioritize your time. But to build that relationship, you have got to go in there and, see them face to face. Have a cup of coffee, stop by the water cooler. There's no substitute for that.
Yeah, yeah. I have to be careful. I work from home. And so, but it's true, right? It's extremely isolating unless you on purpose make a choice to get up and go out and be around other people. Otherwise, you can be heads down into your computer all the time. Thank you for that, Joan. Thank you. So, okay, well, you've been part of SSPI's Women in Space Engagement group since its very inception. Why does SSPI-WISE matter to the rest of the industry?
Well, Tamara, I don't need to tell you this. Women represent a huge talent pool. I mean, it's an untapped pool. And today, as you said, women comes into STEM, there's law, there's finance, we have whatever you name, there's someone graduating and getting a degree in that field.
Yeah.
And we're competing with other industries to draw these women into our space industry.
Yeah.
The challenge I see in the space industry is that it's not an easy industry to understand. It's not like in the food industry or hotel industry or financial industry where you can easily understand how the industry is structured. Our industry is not that clear. And for women particularly, it's not clear to them, how can I make a contribution? Where do I fit? And even when they get into the organization, what is the bigger picture of this business? Because you can easily wrap your head in this little, in your own little daily work, as you mentioned, and not see the bigger picture. And I think it's important for everyone to understand how you fit into an organization and how you fit into the bigger industry. So you can navigate, because our career is not a straight line path. You have to, pivot and move along wherever the opportunity comes around. And it's simply by knowing having someone to show you how to get there. So SSPI-WISE gives women a comfortable level where they can build camaraderie with another female and ask questions, and they can feel safe to ask questions. So I have enjoyed my association with SSPI-WISE for that very specific reason.
Yeah. I'm putting in the chats. I'm just going to drop in the chats, spacebq.org. This is a program that SSPI just launched about a year ago in collaboration with GISOA and SAPROF. It's to the point that you just made, Joan, which is that our industry is so dynamic, that understanding it and seeing the big picture is actually pretty challenging, and it takes a minute to get there. And you're so right. I come into the industry completely with no STEM back, none of that. I came in as a person who had customer service experience, and it was people like you and Penelope and Andrea later, and just all the folks around me, and the late Dick Talbot, who was, so dear to me, who just talking to me helped me understand the bigger picture of the industry, because other than that, I had no clue, just none.
Well, that's exactly, Tamara. We talk in jargons, and we think that this is like alphabet soup. Well, it's not. It's not for the common person.
Yeah.
So I think whatever we can do to break down and make it easier, friendlier, and help someone pull them through, because there are so many opportunities here. And it takes someone to kind of, say it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to act dumb. And by the way, for all you women out there, it's okay to be a female, because when you say something smart, they kind of go, oh, you know that too. And it knocks them off their shoes to say, you understand the engineering side of the story. Well, yes, this is all very good.
Yeah, I think it's changing. I think women younger than us, Joan, will have some different experiences that people are not surprised that we know anything about engineering, right? I think that's changing, but I do think that it's still there somewhat, number one. And as I was also sharing, there's just so many ways that we as women don't always think about stepping forward. The fact that I don't know a thing doesn't disqualify me for participation. We don't always know that. And so it's really beneficial to have someone with your expertise say that. Say, no, you don't have to know everything. You can ask. That means a lot. So, yeah.
Well, one thing, Tamara, you probably noticed too. Yes, it does take a lot of tenacity for women to do that, because oftentimes, even if we contribute a good idea, and you sit around the table and you see another gentleman stand up and say identical same thing, and all of a sudden everybody says, "Oh, that's a nice idea."
Good idea.
You look at yourself and scratch your head and say, "Didn't I just say that? What did I not say correctly?"
Yes.
Isn't that so true?
Been there. Yes. Well, what do you do when that happens, though, right? I mean, do you speak into it, or do you just say it's a good idea? I'm glad it's on the table. How do you navigate?
Well, it all depends. A lot of times I just let it go and say, well, thank goodness I had the good idea. But if it was in certain circumstances, you might want to speak up. But in generally, you just let it go.
Yeah. I'm going to take this question. Sharon put this in the chat. She said, Joan, you've already answered some of my questions in terms of advice on the importance of networking and getting to meet people personally. Do you recall specific challenges that you had second guessing yourself and that you had to get back on track? And then I'll finish it. And she said, what have you found to be your biggest challenge in your career to date? And what advice could you give to new people who may face something similar? So over to you.
Well, I think the big challenge is always getting into something, accepting risk. You have to accept risk. And like we said earlier, you're not going to know everything. But what the confidence you've got to have is know what role you play and what do you bring to the table. And so knowing yourself first, knowing your strength, and being able to be upfront and say, I don't know this thing, but if I understand it, maybe I can contribute in my way because my field is this. For me, it was revenue. For someone else, it may be regulatory. But it's okay to say my strength is in regulatory, but I don't really quite understand this particular topic, and could you help me understand it so I can make a contribution? And I think people really will embrace that.
Yeah, yeah. And especially in our industry, actually, I think people kind of get it that our industry is actually fairly complex. And so it's super easy to not know. And the rate of change in our industry is so dramatic. Yesterday, things that did not exist yesterday are totally commonplace today. And you can't know all of this, but you can meet people who do, and you can engage and learn from other people. And thank you for that.
Well, it's totally true. And also, it's just a level of risk. We all take risk. It's what your comfort zone is for that risk. And sometimes if I have to, there's anything that I say, I wish I had taken more, is taking more risk. Because you don't need to know everything and you will get there. And so you can take a little more risk. The younger you are, the more risk. It's like in the investment. They tell you to take big risks when you're young. And then as you get older, you might pull that back a little bit. Well, that's true in professional world too.
Yeah. Oh, that's very good advice, Joan. Thank you. I was just thinking, you made this point earlier about just having the energy of youth to kind of propel you forward. Okay, I'm not anymore in that youth category. So people like myself, kind of in that middle age, how do we navigate that? Do we just say, oh, well, I'm assuming that we don't just say, too late. That's not the right attitude.
Well, of course not. Of course not. But I consider myself young still.
There you go.
But it's just degree and dialing back on know your comfort zone, know what your strength is, and how much risk can you tolerate, and go for it, because time, the worst thing is not taking a step.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, God, guess. Okay, let's let folks in. Okay, well, so here's another thing. You've done some volunteer work with other groups, like at the Kennedy Center Museum and at George Washington University. And community service takes time, effort, energy. What drives your commitment to doing that kind of community service?
Well, having worked in large companies, any major organization realize that they have to play a role in the community. So I was introduced to community service as a critical part of leadership. So leadership is really not just by title or position, but it's also by your action. And they want to see us go out to the community and work on, food banks or whatever in different ways. Now, I carefully selected the groups that I make contribution or volunteer my time. Just to your point, time is precious. I went to museum at a time when I knew USA Today was the founding or the financial resource behind it. And USA Today is a newspaper that we all read on the road. I mean, we depended on that. They were also an early adopter for satellite communications. And they used that for broadcasting. So I knew a little bit about it and want to be a part of it, whatever they were doing. And so that got me into the volunteering for the museum. And George Washington was at a different avenue. I'm an alumni. I got my MBA from GW. So I was fortunate when I was working on a scholarship program to work with Dean Dolan, who was a fabulous gentleman and really embraced women into STEM. And that was an eye-opening program. And I loved I was very fortunate to participate in that. And Kennedy Center, that's a total different trip. Kennedy Center, and I'm still very active in Kennedy Center. Kennedy Center is actually a combination of a presidential memorial for JFK and a performing arts center.
Wow.
And I think all of us know what John F. Kennedy did for moonwalk and space technology. And I want to read a quote to you. I think we all remember this one. He said, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do other things, not because they're easy, but because they are hard."
They're hard. Yeah. Yeah. That's a favorite
That
quote.
resonates. Yeah,
Yeah.
that resonates well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. You know, I what I hear in what you say, which is really I think very helpful to think about, is how strategic and thoughtful your choices are when you make these kinds of volunteer commitments. That you look one step beyond, not just the thing, but what's behind the thing, and where you can make. And so it just seems like that was that part of you also stretching a little bit and building out your personal network.
Oh, absolutely. I always think about choice, rather than saying balancing family and professional life. It's a choice you make. The choice you make defines you. And so for me, when I accepted these assignments, I knew I made a choice to be in the career. So everything I do is kind of deliberate and making sure that I made the right choice because time is precious. I'm just fortunate that I had my husband, who is a strong partner in all my choices. And I think we all need a strong partner who can, give us a helping hand when we're in need. So I think, yes, everything, I'm glad you noticed that. I guess I'm more deliberate than I thought I was. Yes, conscious effort. We
Yeah.
have to make a choice.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And thank you also, Joan, for mentioning your husband. I know that that is a very tough thing to have recently lost him. And my mom recently lost her husband. And so I want to, first of all, thank you for the generosity that you're showing by being here. And just let you know that all of SSPI-WISE is behind you. So I hope you know
Well,
that.
thank you so much. And Tamara, to that point, I think I have a family with a lot of satellite people and friends, and they have helped me in ways that, it's hard for me to even describe in this discussion or conversation. But through this tragedy, my husband, just for those who didn't know, my husband died on a trip and was in Quito. And I had to reach out to a lot of people to get myself home and to get me back on my feet. So, yes, they were a lot of my satellite friends. And for those, some of you know, we have a group that we coined our names as Satellite Ladies. We were all pioneers in different times, and we come together and we are sisters in times of need and celebrating success as well as challenges.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. I am aware of the Satellite Ladies. I had the bounty of getting to interview, and I'm still waiting for my induction. Just hint, hint for those who are listening to the Satellite Groupies. These are networks within our industry that they're friendships. These are fundamentally friendships, but they're within the context of our industry. And it's one of the things that's kept me in the industry all this time, right? It's just I look around and say, I don't know if any in my prior to coming to SSPI, my professional life did not include friendships. Like I was professional, I had colleagues and things like that, but a lot of people I count as friends in the industry. And I would love to see more of those kinds of engagements. And do you think that SSPI-WISE can be helpful in cultivating those kinds of engagements? Is it formal? Is it just, hey, we're just doing it? Or how do we get there?
Well, frankly, I think it's already happening, Tamara. With SSPI-WISE, it's women helping women. And some of these mentee-mentor relationship just goes on. And this is how we create this network that you're talking about, a lifetime friendship. And I think, you don't set out to do that, but I am surprised that some of these friends that I have, it goes all the way back to 1980s. I mean, really.
That's pretty impressive.
Well, Andrea Malater, for example, I've known Andrea since ComSat,
Wow.
so these are friends for life.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, so we talked a little bit about balance, and I really appreciate you putting forth the idea that it's not only about balance, but it's about what are the deliberate choices that you're making. And yes, Joan, it comes through very clear that you have a very strong sense of deliberation. I'm making this choice and not this one, or I'm making this choice for these reasons. And then I'm marching forward on the basis of that. And I think that's a really useful model that you're setting before us as women. So thank you for it. When you look back over your career, what are you most proud of?
Well, there isn't, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of things I am happy for.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of firsts, and I'll have a lot of things that I've done. If I think about what am I proud of, I think having this network of friends. I think I have traveled around the world, made me a better person. I've seen the evolution of technology, which made me much more aware of where we're going or being open to future changes. And of course, skills that you learn on the job is what you keep for life. So just the fact that I'm here today, Tamara, I'm proud of that. So I think it's accumulation.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm gonna ask the audience to put questions in. We've got a little bit of time. We're at 2:40, but you just said something that just kind of hit me, and I was like, that's a real thing, that being part of an industry that evolves, and especially so rapidly evolves, primes us to be open. Like openness is actually a psychological characteristic, right? The ability to take in new things and welcome it and adapt to it. That's actually a psychological characteristic. And some people don't have the opportunity to cultivate it. They might be that way naturally, they might not be that way, but I think that our industry cultivates that for us because of the rate of change. You have to learn how to do that. And I really, really, really appreciate that you've brought that forward as a thought process, because I think I share that with you. I think I've learned to be more open because you have to. You just have to. It's like, you don't have a choice. If you're going to be here, you're going to learn some new stuff, right?
That's
Yeah.
right. The rapid change of our technology comes in so many different ways.
Yeah, it does.
And we just have to be ready to seize it.
Thank you so much. Well, I didn't have any more questions. Did you have questions for our audience? And does our audience have questions for Joan?
Well, let me ask you, what kept, you mentioned the SSPI involvement and how you evolved over time. What did you think was the most challenging experience for yourself?
I think most people don't know this about me today because I don't present this way. And but the fact is that I actually tend to be shy, very shy, actually. So learning how to step forward and say hello to people was actually a skill set. I had to learn that. I didn't come into the industry with that. I've always been friendly, and I think that was something that you said earlier that I took to heart, right? Know what you already bring and use that to build. So I had a skill set. I was a friendly person in the first place. And I could use that to get past the hump of being too shy to talk to people. I could know that if I was talking to you, we were going to be friendly together. Just had to get there. So that was actually the hardest thing for me, is learning how to step out of my comfort zone and speak. So.
Well, and you've done very well. I mean, I have not known you to be shy.
Yay.
That's right. That's good. That's wonderful. I said that's a big step.
Yeah. And
And
go ahead.
I have another question. With the industry changing so rapidly, and yet your role in trying to attract talent into the industry and keeping all the activities evolving and meeting the challenges, how did you keep up with the industry?
Oh, I'm glad you think I did. You know, the thing is that the industry tells you rapidly that it's not doing what you thought it was doing. You find that out really quickly. Like, okay, you remember, Joan, I met you because of the gala, right? The gala was this massive thing. And we were just going along with it. And all of a sudden that was not a thing. Like people stopped coming. And then we had to say, why is that happening? What's going, are we doing something wrong? But the fact is that the industry, the composition of the industry was changing. The value of the gala was not there for a younger generation. The legacy of the gala did not reach them in that same way. And so suddenly we had to look at the industry and say, how do we meet the industry where it is instead of just trying to drag them into what we want to do? And so knowing that, I think this is what I'm talking when I'm talking about that openness, having the awareness that, hey, the industry is moving. We have to make the move with the industry. So I wouldn't say there's so much as keeping up as much as being responsive. It's like, okay, we can see change happening. What's our response to it? So.
Well, you guys have done a fabulous job. I know we have made a lot of changes and pivoting and setting up different standards, and you've done a fabulous job. You've been the engine behind the SSPI, SSPI-WISE movement. So I have to applaud you for all that you've done for us.
And I'm deeply grateful. And I think that this is a feedback loop because SSPI-WISE has been influential for me. So I've been super grateful. And I tell everybody, I say, even without formal mentorship, the women of SSPI-WISE have mentored me, and I've been very grateful for it. So, so. All right, I've got more notes. Any other questions here at 2:45? Okay. Joan, thank you so much for sharing this conversation with me. I really, really appreciated it. And I learned a lot from being in this conversation with you. And yes, you are stunningly gorgeous, young Joan, after several decades of being here.
Young
You
as
look
I was in the 70s,
fabulous.
right? Oh, thank you, Tamara. Thank you for saying that. Oh my gosh. Well, this is really a pleasure. And I'm very happy that you are receiving the promotion, and it's well deserved. And I know we'll be talking to you more. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And with that, everyone, please, 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 if we could do the thing where we applaud Joan for being amazing. If we can do that, let's see. Yeah. Okay. Joan, thank you so much. I'm going to bring Vinny back on here. And Vinny, over to
Thank
you.
you, Joan and Tamara, for that excellent, insight and interview. I think we all could, learn a lot from it. And I myself, being in the program, in the mentorship program, and Joan is my mentor, and I have learned a lot. And like you mentioned, Joan, about being open and get out there, and it doesn't matter, don't be afraid to say you don't know and ask questions. And I have done that. And so, like I said, I've my experience in last year when I got on a panel, that was my first time. And that was all the coaching and the mentorship and encouragement that I got from Joan. And she actually pushed me and said, no, you can do it. And she put my name on and she says, no, you can do it. So thank you very much. And I appreciate everything. And I can't say anything nice, in anything about the WISE group. I've also, like you, Tamra, learned a lot, and I continue to learn. And I'm so grateful. I am so grateful for joining, having joined SSPI-WISE. Such brilliant, women who we learn from every day, and also who are ever willing to support us and encourage us and help us. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining today's all members meeting. Hope you have a good rest of your week, and we look forward to seeing you at our November meeting.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I just wanted, while I've got like 3 extra minutes, I think we're going to give you back some time today, but I want to just make sure that you caught the note at the beginning that Vinny offered, which is that we are actually next month meeting on the 3rd Thursday of the month instead of the 4th Thursday. Those of us in the United States are well aware that the 4th Thursday is actually Thanksgiving, so we're not meeting on Thanksgiving Day. We're meeting on the 3rd Thursday instead. I also would like everybody to just put a pin in it. You know, next year's satellite is going to start on the 10th of March, but International Women's Day is the 8th. And we are planning to have an International Women's Day celebration. The 8th is a Saturday, so we're going to plan on having an International Women's Day on the 7th. I'm telling you this, I'm going to keep saying it over and over again so that you make a plan to be down in DC and come hang out with us early, because we'd love you to be there with us. So with that, thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.